Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. Over the weekend, Durham Public Schools announced its new superintendent after a months-long search that started with controversy. Anthony Lewis will begin his term next month. WRAL Durham reporter Monica Casey talked with him one-on-one, and she joins us now from Durham.
Thanks for having me.
Were we expecting this announcement to come on a Saturday, and what was the process like that got us here?
I don't think we were necessarily expecting it to come on a Saturday, specifically as a day of the week, but we did expect to get this pretty soon. DPS has been without a permanent superintendent for a while, so we thought this would be coming down the line. It's not too crazy that it happened on a Saturday morning. It was a unanimous vote by the board, which is a good show of support for Dr. Lewis. They had more than 100 people apply for this job, and they got it down to 4 finalists. And then they also brought in a special community panel that the board had chosen to vote for their top candidate. So this was a long process, months long, and it involved a lot of different people, which is probably a good thing for Dr. Lewis to start out with that widespread support in that way, rather than being selected by a tiny group of people.
Yeah, and can you talk a little more about that? Because I think it has a lot to do with why we were even in this position of looking for a superintendent.
Definitely. He is inheriting a lot to deal with. This all goes back to the salary issues from earlier this year, which technically I say earlier this year because that's when it all came out, but that really started in the fall of last year when DPS started to implement a salary study, which essentially means giving raises based on what the study says. The cost of implementing that study and giving those raises was $9 million more than it should have been. And that is the main, and I would argue the only reason that the former superintendent, Dr. Pascal Mubanga, resigned. He resigned in early February, and former Wake County Superintendent Katty Moore took over in mid-February. So she inherited a lot to deal with as DPS kind of investigated what happened with that study, while also trying to look forward and get ready for next year and next year's budget. So we know what happened and what went wrong that time. Now Dr. Lewis kind of has the job of rebuilding and looking forward to make sure nothing like this happens again.
And who is Anthony Lewis, and why would he want to take on something like this?
So right now he is the superintendent in Lawrence, Kansas, and he's been there since 2018. So he does have a few years under his belt of leading a district, but he actually has more than 2 decades of experience in education, and he has family members who have been educators as well. So this is definitely in his legacy, in his blood. While he was in Kansas, he created the first ever equity policy. And during his time, the district had its highest ever increase in their graduation rate in a 16-year span. So he has some clear achievements there in Kansas that he is bringing with him as he comes over here to Durham.
What has the district said about why they decided he was the best choice?
They really wanted clear evidence of what they call student achievement, and that's where that graduation rate comes in. It's a really good metric of success for him and for that district. That's something they definitely wanted to bring to Durham. They also wanted someone who is committed to equity and diversity, which, again, he made that clear in Kansas, and that is a big priority for Durham Public Schools. Right now, we are in the middle of the biggest, well, really the only redistricting that DPS has had in 30 years since the city and county school districts merged. And a big hallmark of that redistricting plan, which is called Growing Together, is equity. Not only racial and socioeconomic equity, but also making sure students have access to all different programs, all kinds of education. So they were really looking for a superintendent who was going to understand those goals and help DPS continue to work through the Growing Together plan. Year-round school actually starts in just a couple of weeks at the end of July, and that will be its first time being implemented with elementary school students, and he will get here just a couple weeks after that. So a lot of changes happening right now at DPS.
All right, let's take a quick break right there and we'll be right back. Monica, before the break, you were kind of walking us through all the change that DPS is in the middle of right now, that Anthony Lewis is going to be coming in to lead the district through. What did he tell you about why he wanted to come and lead this district?
One of his reasons is pretty personal for him. He is originally from Alabama, as is his wife, and this move gets him significantly closer to family.
My wife and I together have 6 children. We have 2 remaining in the house, and so 2 school-age children. So that was extremely important as well. One of the things that I say continuously to our district and building administrators and staff as well is frankly that family always comes first. And it was time for me to practice that message as well and heed those words in terms of making sure that I'm positioning myself to be closer to my family.
The location was kind of a no-brainer for him, but he's also, that commitment to equity is one of his big priorities. He told me he went on DPS's website and just searched the word equity and was blown away by how many resources, how many links came up.
A lot of times in school systems that are allowed to even use the E word, equity, there are some districts right here in the state of Kansas and obviously around the country that shy away from that word and definitely that work. And so it's hugely important for me to look for a district that I can continue to support and lead that focuses heavily on that work. And for the most part, school districts have a good understanding of the differences between equity and equality, but really moving that work a little farther to justice in terms of setting the system up for success and for future success as well. And so for me, it's really about making sure that all of our scholars have access to opportunities, have access to resources to ensure that they're able to reach their fullest potential, their limitless potential.
So this district feels like a good fit for him, he tells me, and he also feels like he has the skills and the tools in his past experience to be able to lead DPS through some of the challenges they are looking at right now.
Right. And aside from equity, which is obviously very important to him and the district, what are some of the other big issues that he wants to address?
One of them will be the budget. Their DPS is coming off a pretty tense budget discussion with Durham County, where DPS did get most of their ask from the county of, I think it was about $26 million more than last year in the budget. But even that number, they were looking at a lot of cuts, a lot of kind of tightening of the belt to make sure that number was as low as they can get it. And Dr. Lewis tells me he's ready to make some of those tough decisions.
Unfortunately, that's been the story of my life of the past, at least past 4 years, dealing with a very tight budget, dealing with state funding that has not been keeping up with inflation, dealing with the impact of COVID and having to make some tough decisions there. And so, my experiences have allowed me to tackle some of those issues head on from the standpoint of making some tough decisions, but also doing it in a way that you are involving staff along the way.
He said it's really important to him to make sure people understand the why behind different decisions and that he's hearing from all different groups and learning from different groups. That goes right into another one of his priorities, which is rebuilding trust. The issues with the implementation of the salary study were not only detrimental to people's pocketbooks, but also their trust in the district and the morale they had going into school every day, doing what can be very difficult jobs that require a lot of patience and care. And these employees are asking the district to show them that they are valued. And so that's going to be a big challenge for him is rebuilding that trust. I asked him, what his plan was to make sure that is happening. And he said he wants to get in front of as many people face to face as possible.
Get in as soon as I can, get into Durham, get into communities, get into rooms, spaces to have the FaceTime with community members, first starting with our school board, our district staff, community members, students, just hearing their concerns, listening to them. And at the same time, if there are some things that need immediate attention, not afraid to address those. I will have a superintendent's entry plan that I will ask our school board to review, provide feedback before I would like to publish that publicly. And within that entry plan, you will see 5 goals that outline my work over the next potentially 100 days once I begin. And you talk about trust. One of the things that I would like to do is put that superintendent's entry plan on our DPS website and have it almost live, that the community can track the progress in terms of those goals and action steps, where they can see I've started those goals, initiated those goals, or completed those goals, and publishing my calendar as well, so they can see the work that I'm doing over the first 100 days.
So he has a really sunny outlook on what he can do for students, but it definitely starts with rebuilding trust. One other challenge that DPS has right now is the issue of deferred maintenance and operational needs for the district's buildings. There are a lot of really old buildings at DPS that have HVAC issues, fire safety problems, that kind of stuff that really needs to get fixed. And then there are also new schools being built as the district continues to grow, and those costs, with the costs of labor and materials going up, those have been, more than they have expected them to be. So he has a lot on his plate with all of the infrastructure of DPS as well, on top of morale and the budget. So a lot for him to deal with.
So, Monica, what do we know about the contract that he signed with the district?
Well, we know that contract starts August 12th of this year, and it goes through June 30th of 2028. That's a pretty standard term for a superintendent. We also know, in terms of compensation, that he will be getting $269,000 per year. That is, again, a pretty standard salary for a superintendent in our area, and that's comparable to what past DPS superintendents have gotten as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Monica, for breaking down all of this. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email that's waiting in your inbox every morning with local news, events, and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.